Well, when we first drove up to park on the street and get our lawn chairs out of the back of the pickup, we come walking up, and I think that the people that were there thought that we really astonished them, because it was my entire family, my sister and her kids and my kids and their families. And anyway, I think that they thought that we had invaded them. It was a difficult day for me because my husband had died on Friday, and the first service for this church was on Sunday, and my heart wasn't right. And then we buried him on Tuesday. So I really think that I wasn't even, probably didn't hear much of what Harry Babbitt, the pastor, had to say. I think I was looking for help, something from God, but I was also mad at him at the same time. So I really don't feel like I was all that I could have been. We had a Harry Babbitt, but he had a family and he could not stay with us. He was looking, and so we had him just a short time. And then we advertised at the seminary, and we had several visiting pastors. And of course, everyone was trying to evaluate each one. Someone we could afford, someone that was going to bring us God's message. And anyway, when Andy Taylor came, I just loved him, and so did most of the others. He just had a real fresh approach. He was a student at the seminary, and he didn't have any children. Just him and his wife, and he came to work for us for just the amount of money that we could pay him. And he had a friend who was a music minister, and he came to work for us as well for almost nothing. And then we moved into La Petite Academy. From the park, we moved to La Petite Academy, and we were there probably a year or two. And in that duration of that time, at the end, Andy left. He had graduated from the seminary, and he had put out his feelers for a permanent position that paid him enough money he could support his family. They wanted to start having children. So then we began to search again. In the meantime, we also lost the use of La Petite Academy. So we had to find somewhere else. It's like God has prepared a place for us as we moved. And Jan and Paul found this building on Clifford, and we all went up and looked at it, and oh my, we could just see so much potential in it. And I don't even think there was more than 3,500 square foot in that whole building. But we were going to put this class there and this class over here and tear some walls out and make a sanctuary, and so we could see a lot. And the man who was going to give it to us had been renting it for $1,000, and he offered to give it to us for $500. And we would give him a receipt each month for the additional $500 for a tax deduction. So, God just provided for us. After Andy had left, John, the associate pastor, became like an interim pastor until we could find someone. And then we had several visiting pastors, and then Mike Blitch came. He was also a student. Again, we had advertised at the seminary. He was also a student, and he had a wife, and he had 2 children. But he also knew that he didn't have the experience to be paid well as a pastor. He just knew he had the call. So we hired Mike to be our pastor. And he was with us for about almost 5 years. And in that 5 years, he finished the seminary. And then he moved on to West Virginia, I think, or Virginia. He has a church there now. So at that time, we decided that no more students. We needed someone who knew where we were going and had a vision and had the courage to take on this little church that we had grown from time to time. We'd go up, we'd go down, and so we knew we needed to grow, and we had to have somebody that knew where they were going. So then along comes Pastor Keith, and we had already decided we weren't going to hire anyone right off. We were going to try out several pastors, And we were going to be absolutely certain. We were going to pray about it, and we were going to be absolutely certain we were not hiring anyone immediately. And Pastor Keith came, and that kind of went out the window. And God just told all of us that that's the one.
Whenever Brian contacted me, we met for the first time I met with Brian, we went by the church, the building over on Clifford, and it was small. And if you've never been over there on Clifford, then you need to go visit that place just so you can appreciate where we're at today. But they had a small building. I think it was about 3,000 square feet, and we had an office, a small office, a youth room, a small nursery, and then about maybe 35 by 40 auditorium. And that had met their needs up to that point. They'd been there for about 5 years then. And Brian told me about that, and that wasn't exactly my idea of the next church I was going to pastor. And we talked more, and we had lunch at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we talked about ministry, and he asked me questions about what I thought about ministry, and I asked him questions about Chapel Creek, what they wanted, and what they saw as their vision. And he told me a little bit about what they wanted to do, and then he took me by the property here on Academy. And by the time I drove by here, and we looked, and I saw the built houses that were being built, and the way the community was growing, and where the property was, something inside of me, I really believe it was God telling me that there is going to be a church there. And I really believe God gave me a vision of what we can do. And at that point, I was pretty sure that I was going to be Chapel Creek's pastor. And I'm not saying that because, I mean, really, that is not an arrogant, I'm not trying to be, tell you, oh man, they get a load of me, they'll, they're going to take me. But I really felt like that was God's plan. After I saw it, I just knew that God was going to do something out there. So after I let Brian go, I went to the Pioneer homes that they were building over there, and I looked at the model, and the model that they had built, I fell in love with it, and I thought to myself, well, maybe we'll look at a house. So I went and got my wife and brought her back and showed her the model, and she liked it more than I did, and we put a contract on a house. So, and God did all of this. I mean, God, I really believe God orchestrated the whole thing. I think we just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and we were willing to say, okay, whatever. But if you've just been around here for the last few years, I mean, it's no mistake. You can't help but see the hand of God and see everything that He's done. It's been a miracle from day one. I mean, we came in and the church began to grow, and quickly outgrew that building. And in the middle of August, in a building where the air conditioner doesn't work, that gives you incentive to go start a building program. I kind of think that we were a lot like Israel in the wilderness. We didn't set up tents every week, but we pulled a trailer up every week and unloaded it and set sound equipment up, and there were, if it was not for a group of committed people, it would have never flown. We could have never done it, but there were people that committed to the long haul, to doing whatever it took to make it happen. And if it weren't for those people, and if it weren't for God's grace, probably we would have killed each other a long time ago. I think that 2 years of Church on the Road was getting us ready to come in here and appreciate what God had done and get us in here and make us ready to work. Well, number one, nobody in our church had ever built a building like that, much less me. Nobody had ever done that. And we knew early on that we could save a lot of money if we did the contract ourselves. And rather than doing a turnkey building where we could take the money that we had, have somebody come in, do everything for us, we could probably save $300,000 or $400,000 by doing that ourselves. Well, I don't think anybody realized what all that meant. There were a few. I think Jimmy knew what it meant, but he didn't say a whole lot at the very beginning. But it was a learning process from day one. We had the groundbreaking day, and then we had issues with elevations and flood zones and city requirements that kept pushing things back. And then when we got those issues worked out, well, the rain started first of the year, and then that pushed back our start date, and the whole time we're sitting there with money to spend finally, and we can't get anything going up. And they came in and did the slab first, did all the concrete work, and of course, that was like everything else. It was not simple. We found out that we had to actually dig the dirt out 3 feet down, pull all the dirt out of the hole, recondition it. They had to put it back in layers. It had to be compacted, each in 6-inch raises, to get the dirt ready just for the slab. And you know what? That's kind of the way it went all the way through. All the things. And we thought it was going to be done in 6 months. I thought it would be done in 4 months. Took a year. But again, through that whole thing, it was a growing process for us. It was part of getting us ready to be in here. And during the building process, there were relationships that were formed that will last from now on. There were sacrifices that were made financially, physically, that we would have never seen those miracles happen if we hadn't gone through this thing. I really think that what God is looking for in Chapel Creek is for us to be a church that is authentic and real. If you ask me, what is your vision for the church? My vision would be that we would be a real body of believers. I mean, a New Testament, an Acts church, where people came and they were healed, where they were saved, where they built relationships with one another that lasted and got through the tough times. I would want us to be a church. My vision for our church is that we would execute the purposes for which it was started, and that would be to evangelize, to do ministry, to worship, and to disciple our people. Really, everything that we do needs to fit into that. And when we talk about vision for the future, that's really what the vision is. I would pray that we'd reach our community, and not just for numbers' sake, but every number represents a person. And I would pray that we'd reach our community, and then who knows, in a couple of years maybe we'll be doing phase 2. Start planning phase 2. But what I want to see is a vibrant. My vision for the church is for us to be a vibrant body of believers that chooses to live by faith and chooses to follow God and be obedient to Him, and that we actually become an agent of change in this community. That we would not be satisfied with just having a great facility and a wonderful family church, but that we'd be driven to reach these people.
I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall?
church is what gave me a reason to go forward. I always felt like God made this church so that I'd have a way to go forward. And I know I wasn't living for God then, but I know that I am now. And so I guess, it doesn't have to be a special reason for a whole lot of people. God does wonderful things for just one person. So I think He did this for me.
I can only imagine